This is Prototype Podcast number 1, Optional Bosses. I think that's what we're going with the name. All right, so Sunday, 6/24. We're going to just kind of break into this easy. We're going to talk about what we're trying to accomplish with this podcast, what we're trying to do with our blog, what we're trying to do with the website, future stuff. We're just trying to get it all worked out today. So pretty much what we're trying to do with this podcast is just have a forum for open conversation about the state of the industry, what's going on in the industry for video games, what we're all trying to do, how it affects us, how it affects you. We're just here to talk, so you can listen. Just gonna do a little round robin real quick. My name's Kyle Neely. I'm a tag name Philanthropist Gamer. I'll be writing articles on the website from here and then. I'll be keeping up with the news and everything like that. Just to kind of tell you a little bit about myself, I've been playing games since about as long as I could hold anything in my hands. I think the very first game I ever played was probably Mario, much like probably yours was. It had Duck Hunt, you shot things, had a plastic gun. It was pretty sweet. I don't know. I think what I have to say that some topics I'd like to get into for this podcast that are really bothersome for me is just like, the whole entire scandals with sex in video games, all the scandals with too much violence in video games, just all the stuff that we're just complaining about that really gets creative people like myself pigeonholed into writing only specific things when I want to just have any kind of creative outlet to just write about anything. Let me just go ahead and just let next guy talk. Introduce you to the next person.
Hey, my name's Mark. You can call me Buffalo Biggs if you'd like. I've probably been playing games since I was probably 3 or so. I think the first game I picked up was Zelda. Used to play that game all the time.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah. And then another game that really, caught my eye back then was the first Shinobi back on the Nintendo. Great game.
Very nice.
Things that really bother me with what's going on nowadays is buying a game, playing the game for a month or so, and then you have to download more DLC.
I think we're going to get into that later, but yes, very bothersome topic.
And it's going to cost you money on top of that. So, that's what's really bothering me, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it on.
Okay, my name's Ryan Burdett. I go by the gamer tag Graffito. I guess I've been playing games literally ever since I can remember. My dad had an Atari in the house, so,
I don't even think I own an Atari.
That's
pretty impressive.
So, there's always a game system there. I remember, first playing Space Invaders, and he had a copy of Pac-Man on our old school computer, so those were the 2 games I was weaned on, so to speak. I guess what's really bothering me in the industry today was now I get a lot of joy out of exploring, doing clever and unorthodox things in games. And now it seems that since games are released to meet a production schedule instead of being fully complete, you get penalized for exploring or doing weird things. It's going to glitch out, it's going to mess up, you're going to fall through floors. And I just think it's sloppy and don't like it.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. And so I guess this is our last panel member. Scoot it on over.
Hello. My name is Abraham Pilkington. Tag is ZeroHawk315. Let's see. I've been gaming since I was about 5 years old. Started with Super Mario World on the SNES.
Ooh, World. All right.
Yeah. I kind of skipped the NES, unfortunately.
It happens.
Hit a little too late, but great system to start with. So. Let's see, topics that are just bothering me. It goes hand in hand. My problems are with just the economy, how that's actually affected the industry. How I understand it is an industry, it's a business, but it's just kind of upsetting to see how all of these other things are just kind of falling into place to really hurt the integrity of the industry, the whole artistry behind the development of games.
Right.
Absolutely. I think we're getting into all these topics today. That's really good.
Games were officially declared art, by the way.
Yeah, no, I know. That was fantastic.
There are museums and everything like that. They have the whole exhibit. That's really good.
Yep, took long enough.
Yeah, right.
Had a lot of voices against that too, which is really sad. Even I think it was Roger Ebert was actually one that was...
Oh, yeah. Well, you know
really
what? I give that article 2 thumbs down over here. So.
And that's the nice way of putting it.
Well, just to kind of tell y'all a little bit more about what we're trying to do. I mean, we're all old school gamer guys. You know, we've been around forever. We've watched this industry evolve. We watched it become, you know, an 8-bit industry to. Do we even count bits anymore?
No,
That we don't do that anymore, right?
We're probably at gigabits now.
Yeah. So we've been around, guys. Like we saw the industry. We were there. Like it was we were there back then. Now we're here. It's a whole new industry. It's evolved into a whole new monster. You know, some of it good, some of it bad. You know, we get some of the best games that you could ever had. You know, in these years that just weren't possible back then. You know, and story really has a lot to do with that type of stuff. You couldn't tell a story like this without you know the fidelity of the systems right now. You know, so that's pretty much what we're trying to go with. Let me just do another round robin and talk about our favorite games, you know, to kind of give the viewers a little taste of what we like, you know. I think we're 3 out of 4 unanimous on Metal Gear Solid being pretty great, you know. It was a game changer for all of us, I would say. It changed the way that I thought video games could be. You know, I'm not going to sit here and gush about this. You know, I think that's another podcast. So,
Agreed.
Yeah, you know, we all really enjoyed that. Abe has not played it. You know, so any Metal Gear Solid fans who are throwing phones against their walls or whatever right now, he doesn't. It's not a hate thing, right, Abe? We'll get him on it. It'll be homework.
Fresh mind on that.
But yeah, so that's cheating. We're not going to be able to choose Metal Gear Solid, everybody else. You know, you know, I would have to say that if I had to choose, you know, one game that really changed everything for me, the way that it was kind of the ushering from 2D to 3D. And you know what? And I hate to choose this, but it would probably be Ocarina of Time. In all honesty, you know, like it was a real weird. Ryan's shaking his head right now. Not a Zelda fan. Another podcast, another day, guys. Let's put him on the spot. We'll get answers.
I'll defend myself.
Yeah, we'll get the answers sooner or later, but that will be a different day. But you know, I think it was at that time when that game came out. I just remember riding my bike up to Blockbuster, renting it every day. That, you know, every time that it would run out, I would go back up and re-rent it until the nice man told me that I had rented it so many times I practically bought the game and he gave it to me. So that it was just a lot of memories about that game. I know it's a cop out to choose Legend of Zelda, but you know, there it is. Go ahead, Mark.
You know, I'm gonna have to say that my next favorite game, besides Metal Gear Solid, would probably have to be Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time as well, but
Cop out.
but the game that really changed everything in games for me would probably have to be Final Fantasy X.
Woo! Okay.
I mean,
that's controversial. A lot of people wouldn't say that 10's their favorite. I would probably have to agree with you that 10's probably my top echelon for the Final Fantasy universe.
Just from going from no voiceovers to putting a voice to a face, getting
to
more,
every character.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're getting more involved with your characters that you had in this game.
A lot more immersion with the era of voice acting that's
and
coming.
then, not to mention, it was on a new console that could.
Yeah, the PS2.
Do what it did.
I think we could all agree the PS2 is one of the finest consoles
Yes,
that's ever made, with the greatest library.
I mean, yeah, it's still going strong.
I think I still have one.
Yeah. So that's how I see things as far as game changers.
I'd have to say, and this, you know, I like Nintendo. I'm not the hugest Mario fanboy, but a game that really changed the way I looked at video games was Super Mario 64. Just the amount of exploration in the world and how you had to think outside of the box to even get to some of the levels to accomplish the objectives. It was just...
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not the biggest Mario guy either, but there's something real special about that game. Also in that era, from switching to 2D to 3D, there was something real special about getting that extra third dimension that really just brought extra immersion to you. You just got sucked in. You knew you weren't this stupid plumber, but like, man, for those hours, I was Mario, man. I was on an adventure, you know?
Yeah, and it rewarded, like I said, exploration, doing weird, unorthodox things, and sometimes that's just what you gotta do. That's how you get the most out of a game.
I agree.
So.
Great game.
Yeah, good. Another cop-out answer. Throw a curveball, Abe. Why don't
you? Kyle, I discussed this with you earlier, but no, for me, it's Mega Man X on the SNES.
Cool, all right.
That was
a little bit of nostalgia. All right.
Yeah.
Good.
That one's like just one of my favorite games to begin with. That one holds definitely a nostalgic part for me. But that one, for me, coming from platformers like Super Mario and everything, you think it'd be just another one of those, but there's just the whole themes of growing stronger in that game and how everything just feeds right back into you as a person and as that character. Even though the story was told in a few cutscenes and there really wasn't much to it, it was pretty simplistic. It's still the story kind of happened outside of the cutscenes too.
Yeah.
Again, your character was growing and you were getting more power ups and everything, and that's kind of a staple of the Mega Man series. But they initiated again the Ego Raptor got to hold him to it.
Shout out for sure. That guy, you know what you're talking about.
He puts it into the right words, but they really established the theme early on in the game, and everything relates back to it. So for me, that just really that's one of the few games I go back to constantly and just replay it from start to finish. Because it's so much fun to play just to begin with.
It's really unfortunate. Growing up, I never even owned a Super Nintendo.
What? Oh my god! Should we stop the podcast? Do you want that on the net?
it was a very unfortunate time. I went straight from Genesis, I think.
I was a Genesis kid myself, in all honesty.
And then I jumped. I missed the Dreamcast too.
I did not own a Dreamcast, which me and you could probably be tarred and feathered for.
Exactly.
But,
I didn't know one either.
Yeah, you're a big Jet Grind fan, right?
Yeah, I love Jet Grind Radio. I love Power Stone.
Power Stone,
Dreamcast has had
Soul Calibur came out on that, man.
Calibur.
Yeah.
I played that. I played the Sonic game that came out.
Adventures? There was nothing wrong with that game. All right, that may have been the last good Sonic game to come out.
I can agree to that. For sure.
All right. Well, that's good, guys. That's really good. A few real cop-out answers with some Nintendo 64 answers, but you know what? That's just the way it is, A couple other, I think we're all kind of across the board into just about any genre. Sans, I'd hate to put us out there. We're not big into sports, but I do play, fight nights. I do play UFC games. I do play racing games. If they put another ping pong game out, I'm in. Come on, Rockstar, that's you. But really, not a lot of sports guys here.
Can you count SFX Tricky?
Oh yeah, that's snowboarding. It's extreme sports, sure. Yeah, Tony Hawk, stuff like that. But
what about fighting games?
Fighting games, not really sports. I mean, that's kind of their own genre.
Yeah.
But not. So if you're a big sports guy and you're waiting for us to talk about Madden, you can go ahead and just turn this off.
It's not gonna happen.
Nothing wrong with those games though. I know they have their audience, and I know they're really great, and they've done some real technical, real beautiful stuff. I remember walking in on someone playing NBA like 2K something, and I was like, oh, this is live, right? And they're like, no. It's just on PlayStation. I'm like, oh, wow. Great. But yeah, I guess we can just go ahead and start getting into some of our topics today. To kind of piggyback off of what Abe was talking about off Mega Man X1, something that I learned today that they did really, really well was kind of teaching you gameplay mechanics without those annoying pop bubbles coming up. The hand holding, like, hey, did you know if you press circle, you jump? Just assume that as gamers, we're probably going to try out all the buttons immediately once the game comes on. Once we are in control of said character for any game, you should assume as developers that we're smart enough to kind of try things out before you needing to hold our hands and everything. Does anybody agree with that?
Oh,
do
yeah,
y'all?
yeah.
I don't mind having like little pop-ups in there, but I like the option to turn them off. Maybe some people need them, but
and some are bad. But when it's a waterfall of them, and every 5 seconds of being stopped, be like, you can kill this enemy. Yeah, this is a game where you kill things. I get that.
And yes. But at the same time, some games need those, like Metal Gear Solid.
I brought that up to Abe earlier. Yeah, it would be really hard to learn that game without, but they teach you the things that you need to know.
Exactly.
It's not just a sea of just crap that you don't need to know.
I agree.
And some games have clunky, unorthodox controls, like Resident Evil. It's you need a little adjustment to. But if I'm playing Call of Duty, I'm assuming one of the trigger buttons is going to shoot.
No way! Get out of here!
But they still label it.
They still label it. Yeah, and and another thing that you were talking about that X did also is that like they have those training levels, they have those intro levels that really just kind of teach you everything right off the bat. It's just like, I don't have any problem with that. Mirror's Edge did something very similar,
right.
That wasn't a game that, like, just shoved everything down your face. Like, Red, go to Red. That was the game mechanic. You walk to Red. And that game did really, really well, especially with its intro level. You really got the mechanics just from that one level alone. So by the time you were starting that first level, you weren't getting, your ass shot off by the first guard you saw.
And I don't mind that. And then but there was that one game that was on the Nintendo DS. What was it called? Was it Radiant Story or
Radiant Historia?
Yeah,
where,
Radiant
like the first 30 to 45 minutes of the entire game was learning how to play, and you had to do those.
Yeah, that game was that was kind of necessary in that game, I would say. But that game had that weird time travel mechanic where you had to go back and play things because it forked off into different roads and
Then
stuff
I don't
like that.
think it was Radiant Historia. Valkyrie something?
Valkyrie Chronicles, Valkyrie Profile.
You picked up the game and didn't like it very much because
Sounds
you
like
had
me.
to
Sounds
spend 40 minutes learning how to play a game when it should have been done in 10.
It sounds like Final Fantasy 13 you're talking about. That is the longest training. It's 20 hours and it's teaching you your last gameplay elements. It's like, wow.
But I can't
Wow,
figure it
Square.
out. I'll look it up and get back
Yeah,
to you all on that.
we'll get back to that. But the hand holding in the industry, it's it's not necessary. I get that you got kids playing these games, but the people who make mature games are completely they do this as well.
Yeah. And I like that you brought up Mirror's Edge simply because a big part of your gameplay experience is the flow and how easy it is to go, not necessarily complete the game, but go from objective to objective and know what you're supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
And, you can kind of completely ruin and take somebody out of the gaming experience by, telling me that X is to jump 30 minutes into the game. I figured it out by now,
Mhm.
So.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Let's just move on to our next topic that we wanted to get on. Like I said, we're just gonna really hit on all the stuff today that's really bothering us in the industry right now. I mean, because that's what this podcast is all about. It's about setting the industry right. There's a lot of people with really loud voices whose voices probably just shouldn't be heard in this industry. No offense to the people who you think I'm talking to. But let's get real. There's a lot of naysayers out there. There's a lot of people sending a lot of negativity to this business that needs a lot of positivity right now. Okay, so let's just go on to the next thing. Story less than multiplayer. This is a big, big thing right now. It's huge. It's just I don't even know what's going on. I don't care about multiplayer that much. I like multiplayer games. I like competitive games. Abe and I are avid we're all avid smashers. We all play Super Smash Brothers. We all, Abe and I more so for competition and less for fun, but Smash is a big thing. I like multiplayer, don't get me wrong, but you know what? When I pick up a story-driven game, let's just say Uncharted. I'm not talking anything bad about Uncharted's multiplayer. Is it necessary, though? What are you trying to play Uncharted for when you're playing Uncharted, Ryan?
I'm trying to see what kind of crazy shit Nathan the Drake has gotten himself into this time and how he's going to get himself out of it.
That's the single player, right?
Right,
I don't, some of these studios, they split teams. Some teams will work just solely on the multiplayer and some teams will work solely on the single player. Sometimes they'll outsource multiplayer. I know there's different ways. But wouldn't it just make more sense for these really narrative, story-driven experiences to be hyper-focused with all the teams and all the manpower working on it so it can be as good as possible? Not saying Uncharted 2 or Uncharted 3 could be any better than they were. But imagine if they were, just imagine that. It'd be totally crazy. BioShock 2, when it came out, that was another big thing. That game was very lackluster compared to the first one. Even though I'm not a big BioShock guy, you can go ahead and send the flame this way. That game is not.
I don't really like that game.
It's not the best. It doesn't deserve all the bells and whistles that it gets. So, but it did suffer in the second iteration of it, and maybe it was because of the multiplayer. Why does that game even need multiplayer? That was an atmospheric shooter. There's nothing. How does that Exactly. There's nothing to multi about it. But yeah, I mean, are there any other games that y'all know of that they've just added multiplayer into that just felt tacked on, like it was just not necessary, that you felt that they could have just left it out?
I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I would have to say Mass Effect 3. I'm not a big fan of their multiplayer. A lot of people are, and I could have just done without it.
I think I only played it just to get the quote-unquote best ending.
Yes.
Another podcast.
Exactly.
And on that topic, if I can interject real fast, and that's another thing, if something's primarily a single-player game, I understand they put work into the multiplayer, they want people to experience it, but to have that affect the best possible outcome to your story.
Yeah, some
Completely
people
ridiculous.
don't even have internet
Ridiculous.
access. Like they're
Exactly.
kind of splitting their audiences in that way. You bring up a very very good point. And some people just don't play multiplayer.
Yep.
That's just that. Like I love my Call of Duties, I love my Battlefields. I'll play those. Every year, unfortunately. But not every game needs those types of multiplayer experiences, especially honed experiences like Mass Effect. That it's all about you and your choices, and you're that, and you're this, and blah blah blah. It's all about you. What is like Ryan? What is you coming in my game? No, get out. This is my experience. Why are you in it? But I don't know. Abe, do you have any games that you feel like that just multiplayer just got like plopped on or anything like that?
It feels like a few years ago I probably would have had something right off the top of my head. I can't think now, but just to, I guess, highlight everything, if it's a great single-player experience, they really should, in my opinion, they should, put all their efforts into it. But if they feel they've got a good enough mechanic for a great multiplayer, they should probably release it
Absolutely.
as a separate package. Package it as as exclusive multiplayer.
Maybe DLC that everyone's raving about.
Invest more time, and that way they're investing more time into both. And if people don't care for the multiplayer, they won't download it. And that way, if they do have a multiplayer, it's really really great. That way they're actually pulling their resources where they need it.
Yeah.
And that way too, if they release a full game, if it's like Mass Effect, subtitle this, they say Mass Effect and it's this, it's not the single player Mass Effect, it's the multiplayer Mass
Absolutely.
Effect. And if some people want to take
Absolutely.
it, and if other people don't, that's cool too. It's divided. I'm kind of big on multiplayer, but that's just because I like the human experience too. I love single player too. No, but it'd just be great. Instead of these little two half-assed efforts, you get two full really great
Exactly.
games.
Awesome.
Instead of one just tacked on, and you're like, oh, we took an okay mechanic for multiplayer and then tried to make it work and just didn't. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, man, I'm right there with you for sure.
Yeah.
We lightly touched on DLC. That's something that you were talking about. This throwing of money, at these games post the $60 we already paid. It's great. Yeah, I mean, Mark, this was your thing that you were upset about. Let it rip.
It's just like Call of Duty where you do spend that $60 to get that game,
And then you spend another 60 for the maps.
Exactly, or Battlefield where you have to get the new game to get the VIP code to even do all that stuff
Absolutely.
online and multiplayer. And then
if you buy it used, absolutely, you have to spend another $15. But
Exactly,
used games, that's a whole nother podcast. That's for sure. Well, we got a lot of content coming y'all's way. As I know, I keep on saying that over and over again. But yeah, go ahead, though, Mark.
And then
He's so baffled
Yeah,
about this
it's
that
just
he's
like-
speechless.
I don't understand why you have to buy a game and then you have to buy more of the game later on. Why couldn't I have just gotten all the game at once?
That's true. When is it ever appropriate?
To
you, I mean, just your opinion. Is it ever appropriate?
if there's like a story, like a really good story you're playing, where they had an idea of a character that could have fit in the game, but they didn't have enough time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to come up
Mass
with
Effect 2.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, right.
And I'm okay with that. If
Okay.
they're gonna bring a DLC in, it's gonna introduce something new to the story and give it more.
Yeah, give it that
more
a
body.
little
Then
extra.
I'm okay with
What
that.
was it? The Grand Theft Auto? Wasn't there the ballad of
Yeah, see, that's kind of what I want to touch on. I would say that's the correct way to do DLC.
Yep.
You release this just massive. Skyrim's another really good example. You release a game like Skyrim or GTA 4 that's just this open world where you can just do anything at any time, and it's got hours upon hours, tens upon tens of hours of gameplay. Some people have even put 200 plus hours into Skyrim. I think I put 78 hours in the first week or something. It was crazy. That game's something else. Those games are content heavy games, and then all of a sudden you get, like GTA 4 after it comes out, you get 2 more 14 to 15 hour long expansions, that are completely different characters, that are completely different experiences, that add new game mechanics. And I think you paid $15-$20 for that? I'm in, I'm in on
Great.
that. I'm absolutely in. You're getting a lot of extra content. And if you're talking 15 to 20 hours, that's a game. That's longer than the average game that comes out usually.
Nowadays.
You know, you're
Yeah.
talking 8 or 9 hours for the average game to complete a single player experience, you know. That's about average, guys. I mean, just look back at any of these games, you know, like
And that's a big stickler for me, is that when the DLC comes out, I like it when it comes out, I like it when it adds new content, but please don't have the DLC to finish the story. Make the game without the DLC,
Woo!
have a finished
right there with
complete
you.
story,
Yep.
Yeah,
and then you
absolutely.
can add on extra.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
Shouldn't have to pay to finish the game I already paid to play. you
Yeah,
know what
I think
mean?
Prince of Persia did that a long time ago. People were like, you know, didn't really get an ending to that new Prince of Persia reboot, that real weird one where you can only fight one person at a time. Really beautiful though, shell shaded, beautiful. Everything else about it not so good. But like they released either a new ending or as an alternate ending or the ending, and you know it got pretty good responses and stuff like that. You know, but maybe that was just an artist fixing their mistake, you know. I don't really know what the stipulations were for that, but, you know, I just don't feel that I need to throw money at a game post-launch, especially when you're talking about day one DLC. You're
Yeah.
talking like this game is in my hands already, and you already have something that you didn't put on the disc. Like, I just got this game. Like, you know, DLC, do it the Skyrim way. Do it like where you're putting out 8 months later and you're putting out a huge, massive, you know, piece of DLC. Don't just be like, oh, I forgot to put this gun and this character in. Let me just give you that, you know, for the day one. And yeah, a new character would be great, but like, why did he not make it on the disc? That's crazy. We spend a lot of extra money nowadays on games. You know, the average game. I mean, it wouldn't be hard to it wouldn't be hard to spend $100 on a single game. You know what I mean? You're spending $60 right off the bat. You're spending $20 on more DLC. I mean,
And then
Call of
another
Duty.
$20.
Call of Duty easily. You're spending you know $15 per map pack to get 4 map packs a year. You know, I mean. You know, you're doubling the price of that game, you know, and those games come out every year. Those guys are richer than Game Busters, man. Yeah, well, does anybody else have anything to say about the money in the industry or anything like that? Like, I think you were talking about how everything's really money driven, one thing that we could say is that new IPs, they don't make it. Am I right? Like
Yeah.
new IPs just don't work anymore. And I'm not being a hater. I want the new IPs to work. I want new IPs all the time. Look at what happened at E3. There was like just a few new IPs, one of which was Watch Dogs,
Yeah.
and everybody and their mother was talking about that game. I don't know if that game came out, and I think it looks great. Let me just go ahead and put that out there. It looks pretty great.
Yeah.
But let's say if Watch Dogs came out and you know, Nintendo announced like the new Zelda, and like there are other like 10 other games that like were just super big and super surprising. That game would have been not noticed at all. It wouldn't have had this type of excitement. You know, it wouldn't have had this type of excitement. You know, so the state of the industry, it is all about money right now. It isn't about us. In fact, us hardcore gamers, we're getting left behind. You can even see that with Microsoft right now. What was at their press conference? Gears of War 4. It's not even 4. It's some weird side story. I'm sorry. I'm not a Gears fan, so maybe I shouldn't be talking about this. It comes from a very
Me
biased
neither.
place.
Guilty pleasure for me.
Okay. Well, yeah, we got someone who likes it. Are you excited about this new Gears of War? Coming from a fan. Okay. And then Halo. You know, new Halo looks great to me, but you know, that's not a new IP. That franchise has been out forever. You know, like these IPs aren't new in any way. You know, when was the last time Microsoft came out with anything new? Fable? Look how good that turned out.
Another podcast.
Yeah.
Another podcast.
Remember when
Another
Fable
podcast.
3 got voted best
Game
game
of
over
the
Metal
year.
Gear Solid 4, a game of the
God.
year, G4. Listen, sometimes I really like you guys, but you guys really need to fucking check yourself with that thing. Fucking Fable. Ugh, okay.
Anyways,
All right, but
But and then they have some new IPs come out that, like Darksiders. There's some people who really like Darksiders. I have high hope for Darksiders too.
Mhm,
But they
yeah.
tried to disguise it as a new IP, but every single game mechanic was recycled from an older successful game.
Zelda.
Zelda.
God of War. Yeah,
all
yeah.
of it completely recycled.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't have a problem with developers recycling mechanics if they add their own twist to it, make it tighter, make it better. You know, I'm always saying every game needs the Batman Arkham Asylum fighting engine. I'm saying that, you know? Like, why not? If you have hand-to-hand in your game, that's the fighting engine you should have. Adopt it, steal it, whatever. That's what the industry should be doing off each other. We modeling ideas off of old ideas, you know? Like, just make sure you make it your own afterwards.
Right.
You
Add
know,
something new.
exactly. But yeah, Microsoft not having any new IPs is a big problem. It is a big problem. They're kind of going the Nintendo route where they don't really care so much about making new IPs and sucking us hardcore gamers and keeping us in. They're kind of more going the entertainment route, which I'm not against. I'm all against turning on my Xbox and watching UFC. I'm all for it. Excuse me. I'm all for turning on my Xbox and watching UFC. I'm all for watching Hulu and Netflix on my Xbox. That sounds awesome. All right, but like what I also want on there is games I can play. Games I can play on it that I can't play on PlayStation. Games I can play on it that I can't play on Nintendo. That's the stuff that I want, but we don't get that anymore. You know, like they're not making, and they have no interest in making new IPs. They just want to throw money to get the DLC first. That's what they do. I want exclusivity, like DLC. So like I'm gonna get Skyrim out early, you know, because I have Xbox, you know, and we're gonna get this game. You know, I think Call of Duty map packs come out early on Xbox also.
And then that competition where if you get DLC for different systems, it gives you like a slight.
Oh, don't even get me started on that, because store competing DLCs. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, if you go to Best Buy, you get a car, but if you go to Target, you get a gun, and if you go to this place, GameStop, you know, you get a dude, you get a new dude, you get new clothes, you know. It's like, what is all this? Just this insanity needs to stop, okay? That's useless DLC. Everyone used to make fun of Oblivion when it first came out. When it came out with horse armor, everyone just made fun of it. Oh my God, horse armor! Blah blah. Everyone's doing it now. So jokes on you, industry. Jokes on you. Well, really, guys, we can just really end it there. This was a real prototype podcast, guys. You know, it's gonna be a lot of ums, a lot of uhs, a couple of silent points. You know, that's all gonna get cleared up as we do more of these. You know. We're just getting our flow going. We're getting this going, and we're just trying to get it going real fast. You know, does anybody have any closing statements or anything?
I really enjoyed this. You know,
I did too. This was good.
Hopefully, there'll be a lot more of these. So
there will be. There's no hoping about it.
And hopefully, people get to really hear it and understand a different side of this.
And we're going to be getting other podcasts on here and stuff like that to talk with us. As we expand our numbers, and as y'all are enjoying it, just pass it along. We'll try and keep them, kind of short. I listen to some 2.5-hour podcasts. I know that's not in everybody's daily procedures though. So, the goal is to keep them about under an hour, some even shorter like this one. But, that's what we're trying to do here, guys. We're just trying to spread the word. We're trying to make sure the industry knows that we're still out there. We want games. We want new games. We want it to be like it's always been and not what it's turning into, which is this mainstream, I'm going to make a first-person shooter because it's safe, that's what's going to make my money. I'm going to make a third-person action-adventure game because that's what's safe, that's going to make my money. We need some new stuff out here. I'm not a big Portal guy, though, but I respect the fuck out of Portal. You know why? Game changer! There's no other game like it. Now we have all these clones of Portal that are coming out. Quantum Dream or Quantum, I forget, Quantum Conundrum, I think it's called,
Yeah.
So... That's what we're trying to do here. Abe, do you have any closing statements or anything?
No, not this time. No.
Man, a few words.
Today we were pretty much in agreement because we were talking about our ideals, where we were trying to take the podcast, what we like and dislike about the industry. As far as individual games, though, we have some wildly differing.
Oh yes, thank you for pointing that out, Ryan.
A lot more.
Expect a lot of arguing, maybe some strangling, maybe even some turning off to actually go outside and fight, and coming back in and being one person short. There will be a lot of that. Absolutely. Thank you for pointing out those controversies, because stay tuned for those battles, because there will be. I have a whole segment lined up where it's called On the Spot, where we put someone on the spot and we talk about how Ryan hates Zelda, or why I don't like Dota, or why Abe hasn't played Metal Gear Solid, or what game do you hate that's completely outlandish, Mark? I know there's so many of them.
Yeah, I know. There's so many.
What's one right off the bat?
Come on, because I don't know what y'all are talking about.
They'll have to come.
Yeah, there's so many that we can't think of one, apparently.
We'll see how this turns out.
But be prepared to all those segments, guys. And we're going to get some ladies on here, some female gamers, talking about some, how the industry affects them and in what ways that the industry is doing right by them. So stay tuned for the following days, weeks, and months.
This is Mark Blasdell.
Ryan Burnett.
Abraham Pilkington.
And Kyle Neely. Thanks a lot, guys. We're optional bosses.